Alright guys, it needs to be done. Today we're going to be talking about the famous book, The 4-Hour Work Week. Let's go. So The 4-Hour Work Week, this is a business book that is mentioned everywhere. Like literally, I have stumbled across all these different blogs of all these different niches, and they have like this 5 to 3 book reading list where they've read like 3 or 5 books in their lifetime, which is, I think they can improve on that. But one of the books on there almost always is 4-Hour Work Week. And it's interesting because despite it being like so prevalent, it's at the same time very niche. It's a niche targeted towards young 20 to 30 male entrepreneurs. And I guess what happened was that this niche is a huge niche of millions of people, which is why he gets millions of people on his website. And apparently, other people not in that niche are interested in this book. So again, this is an interesting book because it's so prevalent. And, I'm not saying it's a bad book. I read it myself and it's a pretty good book. And when I first read it, I didn't know about how prevalent this book was. I just heard about it from various sources. But especially nowadays, like I'll be looking on a travel blog and there it is. There's the book. And then I'll be going to a, YouTube consulting website and there's that book. And then you go to whatever have you, like a family online business marketing website. There's that book. You listen to a podcast. Guess what they recommend? That book. And honestly, it's great and stuff. It's obviously helped a lot of people and so forth. However, at the same time, one of my goals for this channel is to open up the world and introduce them to so many other books out there that are so incredible by business leaders, people who have gone on to make billions of dollars, gone on to do incredible things and have incredible stories and tell you how to do incredible things like how to win friends and influence people, or Sam Walton's book, Made in America. These books are not known because they're not marketed to you. And unfortunately, that's kind of how the world works in a way. You have to hear about something first before you take action on it. And every second there's a new baby that's being born. There's a lot of new babies being born. And every, few years, a new generation gets released and they're completely oblivious to what happened before them. And therefore they have to be informed. So how do they find out about business books and stuff like this? Well, either through paid advertisement, through the YouTube ads or Facebook ads or promotion or blogs like this, or through word of mouth or all this stuff. And the thing is, there's so many other books out there that are not marketed at all. They're published and they stay on these shelves. And the reason oftentimes is because the people who wrote them, they didn't do it to make money. These people had incredible lives, incredible experiences, and they wanted to share this with the world. So they wrote these amazing stories and gave all their advice after, forming these companies that grew into these amazing things and telling you all the mistakes they made so that you can shave off years so that you don't do that and maximize your business or whatever else, achieve fulfillment in life. Stuff like Ted Leonsis' book, where he was already super rich and then he realized he was about to die in a plane crash and realized that he was unhappy and unfulfilled with his life despite being so rich. And he luckily survived that plane crash and went on to do this whole stuff. But these people oftentimes, especially, some of the older people like Sam Walton, like the book Creating Magic, they wrote these things because, maybe people in their community asked them to, but they never spent the time to market these books. They don't have podcasts with thousands of listeners like Tim Ferriss does. They don't have like search engine optimization and all this stuff geared in towards marketing the book on social media and getting people to buy the book because they're not interested in making a living or a boatload of cash off this book. They released this sometimes on their deathbed because they wanted to just help the world and, give to the world something before they died. And that's why it's not marketed and known. Now, let's go back to the 4-Hour Work Week. It seems like I have a negative bias towards this book, and that's not completely the case. I read the book and I got a lot of useful points out of it. In fact, it was the book I recommended to a lot of people, and I would still recommend it depending on the niche you're in, especially if you're doing something online or you're looking to outsource a lot of things and so forth. But the biggest thing I want to say is that the title 4-Hour Work Week for the book was chosen based off a lot of split testing. And if you've ever read the book, he talks about this in the book. He says that he tested numerous titles, and he did it through, I think, Google AdWords. And the title that got the most clicks and the most traffic was 4-Hour Work Week. So that's how he chose it for the book. And I'm not going to lie, that's probably one of the reasons why so many people flock to the book. Why, when it's mentioned on a blog, people's eyes perk up and then they research the book and buy it, and then they spread the word on it because of that title, because it's, you know, in a way selling a bit of a pipe dream. Oh, you know, I only work 4 hours a week and then I can spend the rest of my days doing whatever I want. And that's rather unfortunate, because that's not what, I don't think that's fully what the book is about. I do think he's somewhat sculpted the book to be like that. And then if you hear Tim Ferriss' story for creating that book, just like Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling and a bunch of other authors, it's, again, just another great lesson on not giving up and going through rejection. So many successful authors and successful TV shows like Mad Men, you have no idea about the struggle and pain behind their whole story because no one's there to tell you about it. And, you know, with Tim Ferriss, with J.K. Rowling, with the guy behind Mad Men, these people, especially the guy behind Mad Men, he spent 7 years running around Hollywood pitching this show, getting rejected and rejected before finally getting that show taken and making millions off of it. When finally someone decided to take a chance on him. And the same thing with J.K. Rowling and Tim Ferriss' book. They both got a lot of rejections from publishers. So now to the actual book and the whole thing behind it, I think, you know, there's certain areas of the book I think are the most important for me to highlight just briefly. I think there's enough said about the book, and at the same time not that much said, because I see a lot of people just referencing the book but they never say much about the actual book. So I'm like, did you actually even read the book? But just a few of the things, you know, it's great on outsourcing, and I think outsourcing is very important and very useful, especially nowadays, because if you don't know the cost of living and the price that you pay someone in the Philippines or in Asia or India to do certain tasks is a very small fraction of what it is in other countries like the United States of America. And therefore, they're more than happy to do a lot of stuff like managing your social media, posting every day, technical work, emails, for a fraction of the cost, because their cost of living is that, and they're more than happy to do it for, like, you know, $300 a month, working full time, which is incredible. And the big caveat is that you have to really describe everything out to them in detail, test out a bunch of them, because otherwise they may, you know, skimp out on your time, or they may just, you know, not do the work you want them to because of the language barrier. But if anything, I recommend the people in the Philippines because they speak English very well. So that's one big thing I think is very important for anyone interested in business to at least consider and check out. And obviously there's a bunch of other stuff, just a few quick things. Selling and getting your foot in the door with someone at the head of the company. So he brings about some very important salesman tips, just like how if you want to reach someone, you want to call, you know, early in the morning or right after closing hours, because that's when the receptionist leaves and then the head of the office or the company is still there. So that's that. That's all I'm going to say about the actual, you know, highlights of the book, and that's what I find useful. Those are the things I find useful, and the reason is because I want to talk about some other more important, vital things that I really need to bring to you. I think the whole idea of the 4-hour work week may lead people in the wrong direction. You know, Tim Ferriss doesn't work 4 hours a week, even though he could. There's a lot of millionaires who do not work 4 hours a week, even though they could. And the reason is, it's partially because wired in our genetics, we have a need to work. We, on some level, enjoy working every day. And you see this with a lot of people. If you read the book, if you read any book by T. Harv Eker or Darren Hardy, they talk about this. They talk about how they've made all this money and then they get to sit on a beach and they're on vacation and they're depressed about it. And there's this great YouTuber. He and his wife run the YouTube channel Luxy Hair. It's this incredible hair product online business thing and it has millions of subscribers, millions of views, and it's just ingenious what he's done. And he read the 4-hour work week and did this. And this is a very modern day example. This guy's like 20 years old, maybe 25. I don't know the exact age, but he's young. And he read the book and he thought this is what he wanted. And he managed to achieve it. So there he was sitting on a beach all day, living what he thought was what he wanted, the 4-hour work week. And he hated it. He was unhappy and depressed. And eventually he decided, despite not having to do so, he went back and got an actual job, an actual office, and worked and actually did stuff. So that's a very integral part of life that most people forget or don't realize. And so I find that very fascinating of itself. And Tim Ferriss, same thing. You know, he doesn't have to do this, and yet he's still running a podcast and all this stuff. So there's different elements to it. And again, as I'm saying all this stuff, there's always exceptions that pop into my head of people who, like, they're fine with just chilling and not doing anything every day, or they end up doing something else. But I do think, generally speaking, we all want to be constructive, creative, grow, have variety, diversity in our lives, and work rather than do nothing. And many people, they don't know this yet, so they think that they don't want to. Then they maybe learn the hard way, the long way, and then they find themselves in these situations. So this video is getting pretty long. That's what I want to say in a nutshell in this short, low attention span video for the YouTube audience. I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you later. Peace.